For over 25 years, I've led teams, and for the first half of that, managing people was exhausting. And then I developed 7 systems that make managing people easy and elevates a team, and it frees me to do strategic work. And I'm going to share with you how I did it and give you the templates and the calculator so you can do it too. Before I share it with you, just give me 30 seconds so I can explain why I had to create this process and that makes managing people easy. And then for the rest of the video, I'll screen share, give you all the tools and how to use them. And as usual, if you want free access to everything you see in this video, just click on the link below. If you don't know me, my name is Raj Jha. I founded 5 companies, took a company public, and have done over $440 million in sales. But the thing that solved my people management headaches is when I stopped trying random things and I used a scientific process to test different management systems. Now, I used to be stuck with low-performing team members, fragile employees, workplace politics. But when you put in place these 7 systems that I've battle-tested, you'll unlock clarity and peace of mind and be able to do your best work as a leader. Now, I share this with over 1,000 entrepreneurs in my CEO Workbench community, and today I'm going to give you a part of that system for free. When you are looking to make your team management easy, there are 7 systems that you can implement, and make sure you watch till the end, because at the beginning, I'm going to go over a bunch of scorecards that you can use, a bunch of tools that you can use, but we put it all together, and I give you some really pretty cool tactics at the very end, and there's some bonuses on that as well at the end. So stick through to the end and make sure that you understand both the systems that we're going to talk about at the beginning, and then some of those tactical tools are really little tweaks that can be a really big difference if you get it right. So there are 7 simple systems. We will go through all of them right now. So let's start out here. And the first is around meaning and mission. So I used to hate the whole mission, core values thing. I thought it was just total BS. And that's because I was thinking about it wrong and I was doing it wrong. And here's why. When it is actually done right, it makes managing the company easier in literally every way. But what I thought about it is I saw these companies, and typically a big company, and they would have some mission statement or core value, and it just sounded so hokey, and it's like they had these fancy words. Customer service is always front of mind or something like that, and it just meant nothing. And that's because they were doing it wrong. And so I got my examples as wrong, and the first time I did this, I did it wrong. But if you do it right, and I'm going to show you how to do it right, the company can start to self-manage. And having a self-managing company is a magical thing. It's going to help people make decisions without you. And if you want that outcome, this is how you can do that. So what is it not? It's not a list of aspirational things like quality for our customers. That's BS, big company mission and core values. That doesn't do anything. A big exercise will happen. They'll come up with some core values or mission statement, and literally nothing will happen after that. And it just might be on some posters on the wall. That's the last thing you want. It's not a feel-good thing. If this is a feel-good exercise that's intended to get people interested in the company, but it doesn't become part of the fabric of the company, then you've wasted your time. So that's not what we're going to do here. What this is, and this is the fundamental change, is this is the social contract of the team. You have a team of people. This is the thing that binds them, and it's a common language, and it's a shortcut to making decisions. Because when you have a mission statement and you have these core values that are how people talk about the business, that's what changes everything. It's meant to be discussed all the time. And I'll talk about how, as a leader, I use this and how I ask the other leaders in my companies to talk using these core values. I'm going to show you how this becomes a shortcut to everything that you're doing. And it really is the bedrock of the company. And so I'm saying these big words, and if you're like me and you're like, oh man, this stuff is total BS, just stick with me and try this and try doing it in the way that I'm suggesting, and you will see that it is objectively different how people talk at the company. What this does, like I said, it simplifies leadership. And as the CEO, you become the keeper of the values. And I talk about myself that way. So just yesterday, we had a performance review for a new team member. It's a 30-day review. As you'll see with some of the tools that we have here, there are a waypoints at which you review people, especially in the first 90 days. We had a 30-day review, and my chief of staff was doing the review, and I was sitting in on the review. My role there was not to take control of that call. I could sit back and have my chief of staff deliver the feedback based on her first 30 days and her self-assessment of how she's doing. And I told her on that call, I am the keeper of the company's values. I am here to make sure that people are aligned with those values, and to make sure that people who are not aligned with the values don't stay at the business. That is my role. And it makes things very easy if the core values that you set up are really the core values that you want to have the company manifest and you want to have in the company, the DNA of the company. Now, you can have multiple companies like I do, and you can have different core values at each one if they are doing different things. That's totally fine. As long as you're the operational leader, though, it has to be consistent with something that you believe, because otherwise you're kind of fighting against this social contract and you're not going to be a part of it. But as long as you believe them, then that is going to be the case. And I'll give you an example of some of my core values here. What you're doing is, instead of having people come to you and ask you what to do, you are having them think for themselves. And if they ask, well, hey, what should I do? And you can say something like, you know what you want to accomplish. How would you do it in a way that's consistent with our core values? And that gives them a guiding principle of how do we do things around here, and how we interact with our team members, and how we interact with our customers. And so what this is putting together this list of items where they can always be thinking in their head, well, if I'm doing something consistent with this, then I'm heading in the right direction. I might not always get the right answer, and you shouldn't penalize someone for getting the wrong answer if they use the right process and the methodology to get there. But they have confidence then that they're making a decision that is going to be aligned with the company, and they'll get rewarded for that. So what do core values look like? Here's an example of my core values, and the preamble at the top there is pretty important. Life is too short to work with people who don't share your values. Here are the ones by which we operate. If you don't love these and live these, this is not the place for you. So it's very upfront that this is front and center what we are looking for. In this case, we've got these: play for the logo, play like it matters, quick moves, clear grooves, say it, mean it, hear it, our word is our bond. I've got the downloadable example of these and others below this video, so you don't have to screenshot this, and there are other examples to help you find your own. But this is the format that I like, because it's got a little icon on the left, and it's got a name, play like it matters. That's the handle of it. Like, you can just say it really quickly. Hey, Allie, you're really playing like it matters. And they know what that means, and they can refer to this. We take initiative, we get resourceful, we do it and own it. We grow ourselves and our team by leaning in and trying things. They know what it means by a definition, and they have that handle, the name, and they have a little emoji. We have not actually done this, but I've heard some companies do this, so I want to throw it out there because I think it's a really cool idea, is they do attach an emoji to each one, and when somebody does something consistent with the core values, what they do is they use that emoji in Slack, or I guess Microsoft Teams, or whatever they're using in the messaging, and they just tag that person with that emoji saying, hey, you lived this core value by doing this thing. And so it really, again, it injects it into the everyday parlance of the company. This is what we're about. So how do you make these real, right? So we've got these things here, these core values, and how do you make them real? The way that I make it real is a area of our website which has all of our team's information on it, like the team wiki, where everyone puts their information in, a little bit more about them so that people can know more about each other. And there's a section called What Our Core Values Mean in My Job. And every team member pulls all of the core values and then writes down what it means to them. How does it apply to their job? This is the important next step, because core values can live as a poster, and that's kind of a thing that is forgotten because it's a poster. It's, maybe they even put it on their desktop, but they don't live it. But once they translate that into how does this work in my everyday life, it changes how it is woven into the company. So in this case, this is, for me, play for the logo, one of our core values, the first one. We play for the brand and what it means. We don't partake in or accept workplace drama or politics. And so what did I write about what it means in my job to make it real for me? And of course, my entire team is doing this. Say, I'm here to win the game with a championship team. I don't care about job titles. I care about winning titles. That is, being the best business that we can to achieve our mission. My role is to coach everyone to be successful as a member of a championship team. So I have translated what this core value means into my everyday actions. This exercise, which every new team member goes through, helps translate who we are into what they do. And they can revisit this, and I can go into the team wiki and I can look up and say, okay, well, for Tracy, she's got this. How does she view this translating into her job? And we can have discussions around it. Because if we're all aligned, that we're all trying to do things in the same way, it really bonds the team and it helps them think. So I think this is a very powerful way of doing it, and I highly recommend you go through this exercise, downloadable below with the examples. This is just a piece of it, obviously. You can't see all of it. It scrolls down further, but the download has all of it. So that's the first piece. And the next one, the next segment, is in position scorecard when hiring. I have a separate video on hiring superstar employees, so you get A players on the team. But we're going to go over a piece of that. You use that process, you will see the scorecard in that process. But if you haven't watched that video or you haven't done that process, I'm going to show you how that works here in managing your team, because it's a very important piece of it. So the only way that a team member can be successful is if they know what's expected of them, right? You can't just hire somebody and say, hey, you're now customer support. Go do it, right? They don't know what success means. And they might have like, oh, well, here's the playbook for this thing. Maybe you've done some standard operating procedures, but they don't really know what success means. So if they don't know what success means for the role and that what that role is in the company and how that drives the company's success, how are they going to hit it? That's why scorecards are important. It helps them understand what is the important thing that they're driving towards. What is the number, right? Is it how fast am I replying to tickets? What is my average customer satisfaction score amongst the people who emailed in? Those numbers will drive their behavior, but only if they know the numbers. And you, as a leader in the company, are all about making a machine that gives predictable results and takes in capital and takes in resources, and then out comes money, right? That's what this business is. It's a machine that outputs money and is an asset for you. And if that's the case, you want it to be predictable. That means it has to be a machine. And that means you have to understand the tolerances of the machine and what the numbers are of the machine. And this is that. This is tying that big picture of I've got this asset that is producing cash. And in order for it to line up, you can't just have a bunch of people doing random shit. That's not going to work. So each thing has to be tied to some performance metric, and that's what the scorecard does. So, but if they don't know that, if they don't know what's expected of them, they get demotivated, or they just phone it in and they do what they've always been doing, or they just make something up and they do that. You win when you show them how to win and you help them win, and that is what this is doing. This is the win-win-win situation here. You're going to win. Your team is going to win. The customers are going to win. The company is going to win. This is the key to doing that, and we do that by being objective and sharing the success criteria with the team. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the position scorecard. Now, side benefit of the scorecard is B and C players, the lower performers, they thrive on politics, essentially trying to gain favor with people in the company, making alliances in the company, the kind of stuff that to me is toxic. That doesn't matter. We are here to be a high-performance team. We are here to drive the company to success. And we do that by understanding what are the success criteria of the machine as a whole, the company, of each department, of each role, as such, each individual in each role. Now, even if you're a really small company, this is still true. Don't think that because I said department, you can say the word function, that this is only for big companies. A teensy startup with 2 people, with 1 person, still has this. Just because you're wearing the marketing hat 1 hour and then the next hour you're wearing the operations hat doesn't change this at all. That function still has to output something. It has to have this performance. And once you kind of nail down this scorecard, you're going to know, oh, well, that's what it takes to be successful in the role of marketing, whether that's a department, an individual, or a slice of one person's time. So the B and C players, they're thriving on politics, but politics is not useful. It's a waste of time, because what it is, it's focusing on interpersonal squabbles and interpersonal relationships in a way that is not actually getting to the result. Because we're focused on the result and not the politics, then we can dispense with all of that emotion around that. And we can enjoy working with great team members because we're all rowing in the same direction. So this is going to encourage A players as people who really want to do well and are given a benchmark for what doing well is. They will thrive because they want that challenge. They want to be given a goal. They want to try to hit that goal instead of not really having a goal. And then they're jockeying for position and trying to curry favor because they might get a promotion because, the boss likes them more than someone else. I cannot imagine a worse working environment than that personally, but also I've seen through 30 plus years, the organizations that do that politics versus the ones that really focus on performance have radically different outcomes. The performance ones will always win. So we're getting A players to thrive here. And doing this position scorecard makes it 100% clear that your organization is focused on performance and not politics. So how do you do this? First, you're going to create a scorecard before hiring for the role. Again, refer to my other video for more details on that. And during the interview process, you discuss that scorecard. Like, here's what success means at this business. So it's going to chase off these C players who are there for the politics and that have gotten ahead at their last job because they schmoozed the right person. As long as your team member knows from the beginning that that's what the scorecard is, you will do well at this. So here's the key insight. The scorecard plus core values means easy to manage. Why? Because the team members now know what success looks like. They now know that this number is the thing that they're being judged on. And this number, maybe it's response times, maybe it's customer satisfaction, whatever the role, right? It's a certain number of closed deals. Every role can have an objective criteria around it. And once they know that and they know where they're heading, then they have to know how to head there. And that's what the core values are. So now you see what we've done. We've taken something that seems all mysterious, like how do I manage this team? Like how do I keep all these people happy? No, I'm going to look for A players who are interested in hitting a goal. And I'm going to give them a guideline of how we hit that goal, how we perform as a team. And now your discussions become very easy. It becomes like, hey, I'm here to be the steward of those values and make sure that everyone is living those values. And then I'm going to be able to look at the scorecard and say, are you or are you not hitting that scorecard? If not, I'll coach you. I'll help you to hit it, like help you with those ideas. But everything becomes so much clearer. This is the first key to easy management. You need these things to really be able to take a step back and finally relax and not have the people stress. So here is the position scorecard. This is a screenshot of it. It's not the whole thing. It's actually much longer than this. Again, the downloadable template is below, so you can get that there. I will just do a quick walkthrough here. When you do get the download, it's going to ask you to copy document, and then you're going to click make a copy. And here it is. Just a quick walkthrough. Again, there's another video that I've done on this that is pretty detailed, but these are the objective criteria we've talked about. There are measurables, and then you're going to fill in the numbers that correspond to certain levels. And if it's red, their performance is not great. If it's yellow, close, not quite. Green, they're doing fine. Super green, they're doing awesome. Then you're going to put in your core values. As you can see, these are different core values from my current core values. This is from a different business, from a different time. Every business has its own core values. And then there's skills and competencies. And I'll just scroll down real quick. Again, you don't need to take screenshots. This is all downloadable. Here's a whole bunch of skills, and then ongoing responsibilities, daily tasks, weekly tasks. And again, they're getting rated on a very objective basis. Okay, so that is the position scorecard. What do we do with this scorecard? Because we're talking about management. Part of it is in the hiring process, using the scorecard in the interview and hiring process, and part of it is an ongoing thing. So as a quarterly review, you're going to go through this. You're going to first measure, where did they go? Are they yellow? Are they almost there but not quite? Do they need some coaching? Are they red? They're just not hitting it, and I'm not sure if they can. Is this a good fit? That's a discussion to be had. So you're going to go through all of these things on a quarterly basis with them, and then you're going to have a discussion about it. Then you'll also adjust it, because their measurables may change over time based on where the company is going. What won't change? The core values. Those will be the same. That's the how they're doing things, how they're approaching it. What actions do they need to take to better live up to those core values? Are there examples where they were excellent at living the core values? Are there examples where, you know what, you didn't quite play like it matters? You kind of let the ball drop there. You didn't embody teamwork or something like that. So you go through that on a quarterly basis. And this, again, it keeps it front and center, because all of your evaluations, all of the compensation discussions are around this. Now it doesn't have to be about, well, I didn't like what you did in this one instance. You're keeping the focus on the big picture, because this ties the role to the performance of the company, instead of just kind of thinking in the micro and saying, well, I did or did not like this one-time example of what you did. So the quarterly review of the scorecard ties in every single role into the bigger picture. Again, download it below. So it's the North Star. It makes everything clear, and you can also use this in regular one-on-ones. So it becomes a discussion item. Just as for me, every discussion I have with my team is about the core values. You're going to feel like you're saying it too much, but you're not. You almost can't say it too much. As the leader of the company, you're focused on the core values. And then the managers are going to focus on the scorecard. So for instance, my chief of staff is going to be in regular one-on-ones focusing on what are the projects that they're doing, how do they tie into the measurables, etc. So that's how you can use this on an everyday basis to do that as well. Okay, the next thing is the Fit Grader. This is a pretty cool tool. At the highest level, like I said, you are the keeper of the culture. You're the keeper of the values of the company. So you need to look at fit, because that's what you're doing. You are assembling this machine, this business machine, and in it there are roles, and those roles have people, and you need to make sure that the people fit in the role and they fit with each other. You're assembling a championship team. You have to make sure that each position has the player that is going to take the team to the championship. Football analogy, and you've got a running back, and the running back is just not cutting it, not good for that role. Now, that is a problem. You're not going to get there. So you have to look at that. So this Fit Grader is one of the tools that you can use as a leader to assess that. So it means that they are doing their own job, and they are helping others on the team do their job. That's what you're looking for here. So this is the Team Fit Grader. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough here so that you can see what that looks like. On the Fit Grader, you are going to have these columns. So you're going to put in the name of the team member, and then you're going to rank this team member. So every team member is going to be listed in the first column. And then you will rank each team member on several factors. By team members, I also mean internal and external. So it could be vendors. It could be anyone you deal with. And you're going to rank them based on core values. Do they understand their role, their motivation and effort? And this last column, which is super critical and will save you lots of pain, and I'll walk through each one of them. First is core values. Are they fully aligned, mostly aligned, partially aligned, or not aligned? So that is a judgment you're going to make. So is this person aligned with the core values or not? I'll just give you an example. So let's say test person is mostly aligned with the core values. Do they understand their role? But test person, they somewhat understand their role, but it seems like sometimes they're getting a little bit off the path. I'm going to give test person a somewhat. Motivation and effort. Here's the problem. They're just unmotivated. I can't get them to really just lean in and lean forward and be excited about their job. So it's low effort. So you're going to rank these. And whenever you see something that is red, you have a problem. Red flag, red light, and you need to decide, is this person actually an A player to be on your team? Because someone who's low motivation, low effort, it's really motivation, as I talk about in my hiring training, motivation is really, really hard to train for. You just kind of have it or you don't. If that's a red, that's a problem. But what if the person's a medium motivation? Well, maybe they can be motivated with talking them through what the meaning of their job is, etc. But if they don't understand their role, they literally don't understand their role, well, that's a red flag too. That person probably shouldn't be on the team. Or you have a really crummy system of making them understand their job because you haven't done the scorecard. Let's say, for instance, this person is not aligned with the core values. They are consistently breaching the core values. You probably need to get rid of them. This is just color coding things and making it easier. And so, maybe you got greens across the board. All right, test person is awesome. And then they come to this last column. Here you have multiplier, adder, subtractor, and divider. This is one of my best developments in people management in 30 years. It is a shortcut. You may have heard the story where I almost had my company hijacked by someone who tried to incite essentially a mutiny in the company, and she tried to take over my company. This is because I hadn't realized that she's what we call a divider. Every team member can be put into these categories. They are multiplier, adder, subtractor, and divider. Let's start with the easy ones, adders and subtractors. An adder is a person who does their job. They could be very good at their job, excellent, amazing at their job, or just kind of good at their job. The point is they're doing their job, and they are a net positive to the company. A subtractor might be doing their job, but they're doing it in a way that is inefficient, or they're below standards, they're below par. They could be made into an adder by some training and working with them. The vast majority of your team will be adders and subtractors, and we want to get rid of as many subtractors as we can, either coach them up to be adders or move them onto other positions. So the vast majority will be adders and subtractors. There are a few outliers, though. We call them multipliers and dividers. A multiplier, it's not about their own work. It's, do they make other people on your team better? Really important distinction. So my chief of staff is a multiplier. She makes other people better. She helps them do their best. She is one of these rare people where she makes other people better at their jobs. And a multiplier doesn't have to be in a leadership role. You can have a multiplier who is an individual contributor, but how she lends help to other team members makes them do a better job. That's what a multiplier's definition is, because you have a multiplicative effect of that person. They are making the organization even better than if they alone did an awesome job. They're helping other people do an awesome job. And those are rare, and they should be treasured. And you should find out what they really want about their career, and you should help them with that, because it will pay back in spades, because multipliers are amazing. Then we have the divider, and that's what this person I talked about with a mutiny was. A divider is someone who sows dissension. Essentially, they are making people dissatisfied. They're trying to rile them up. They're saying, well, we should get this, or I don't like this. Now, that's distinct from saying, I think there's a problem, we should solve it, here's how I propose to solve it. It's essentially trying to create a disconnect between leadership and individual contributors, or they're just constant negativity, or people just don't want to deal with them. That is a divider. And if someone is a divider, I have one recommendation, and that is to fire them instantly. It is toxic. If someone is dragging other people down, whether it's emotionally, whether it's work product, that is a divider, and that should just go away, because you will chase off your multipliers if you let dividers stay at the company. Do not do it. So this tool here, you'll list all of your team members, and then you'll look for the red ones, and the red ones are the first thing you should address, because those might be the people you need to get rid of. And it's the first and most important thing is to get rid of the negativity, to get rid of the underperformers, to get rid of the people who they aren't a good fit for your organization. They may have an awesome future somewhere else, but they're not a fit for you. You can wish them well, even if they are not a good fit for you, and you can be helpful for them getting the next role at some other company, but they're not a fit for you. Get them out. They will drive out your A players. So your first job is to flush them out. Your second job is to make sure sure that all of your multipliers feel loved and are taken care of. And if you do those two things, your management will become so much easier. True, you have to work with the subtractors and say, am I going to try to coach this person up? Or am I going to say, you know what, it's probably not a good fit, let's find a path out. Adders, they're great. They're the bread and butter of the company. But first, look at the outliers because they will have a disproportionate effect on the company. So that is the Team Fit Grader. It's a very important tool. It's typically for the CEO, the leader of the company, to do this because, again, you are the keeper of the culture. It is available as a free download below this video, like everything else, and you can get a copy of this, and so you can just color code your company super easy. Next system, the Team Elevation System. I love this one. It comes from Jesse Pujji. His Twitter is there on this slide, so all credit for the concept goes to him. I took that concept and I modified it to gamify it, make it more fun, make it a little more interesting in terms of how it's presented, but I don't want to take the credit for inventing this, so all credit to Jesse. So what is this belt system? How are we going to use this? It is a way to discuss how team members are getting better and more independent at their jobs. The goal of this, the goal of you building a company is to make that machine that is an asset for you and spits off cash flow. As a leader, your job is to elevate your team and to not be having to be in the day-to-day touching everything. Because if you're touching everything, you can't focus on strategy and nobody wins, right? You might think that, oh, well, I'm in the trenches with my team. Yeah, sort of, kind of, but it's not the same. If you are too far in the trenches, you're not going to have the mental space to think of strategy and think of big picture things which will actually take the company to the next quantum leap and allow your team to elevate themselves because the company is elevating. You might stay small and you will stay with a small ambitions because you are stuck in the everyday. But by using this system, you are going to help team members elevate their own performance to not need constant supervision, and therefore you're going to be freed up to do bigger and bigger things so the company can have a bigger and bigger future so that you can give them a bigger and bigger future. Your team can come along and expand their capabilities as well. So that's what the belt system is for. What we're going to do is in this belt system, during your reviews of your team members or your leadership reviewing them, you're going to evaluate them. And entry-level people are very much, maybe it's their first job, etc. It's like, just tell me what to do, right? If think about that, that's a very entry-level thing. Tell me what to do. But a very senior person, like a CEO talking to the board of directors, they report, here's what I've been doing. But that's not just the two levels of things. There's a continuum, there's a spectrum of tell me what to do, all the way up to here's what I've been doing. All right. And there are levels of mastery that come along with each one. And what this belt system does is it helps you articulate where someone is in the journey from an entry level to CEO level. Now, is everyone going to get to the highest level? No, but that's okay. What this is going to do is it's going to really make it clear where they are and where you want them to head and why they are where they are, what they need to work on. So it's going to really make this clear. Again, this is team management made easy, right? We're trying to make it so that it's not guesswork. You have a system. And we use the karate belt analogy to gamify the whole thing because people really like seeing where they are. So they start as a white belt, yellow belt, and they're graduating to the next belt. Back to that employee who I just had that 30-day evaluation. Not everybody starts out at white belt. She started out as an orange belt. She's been doing a fantastic job in the first 30 days of really understanding what she's supposed to be doing and coming up with proactive suggestions from the beginning. That's fantastic. So we don't have to start her at the white belt because she wasn't at a white belt level. She's orange, so now she can start and go for green. And I'm going to show you what that means in a sec. So the belt levels are on the left: white, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, black. And this is what an individual contributor, so someone who's doing an individual job, or a manager does at that level. So for instance, if an individual contributor is their first job out of college, they're a white belt, tell me what to do. And you're going to encourage them to get that next belt, get that yellow belt. And in that belt, it'll be like, well, I see this is happening, right? They're making observations about things. So it's not just like they're a robot. Instead, they're making observations saying, hey, I noticed this. Well, that's cool. And you reward that with the yellow belt. And the next thing to get their orange belt is they have to go beyond noticing things. They have to say, well, I see this and I think it might be good, bad. We could do this. I think something about this. And the next is they see, they think, and they recommend. Now they recommend something. Well, now they've really graduated to a whole nother level. So remember, as a leader, you don't want to be in a place where your entire team is just coming to you and saying, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. You want to be encouraging them to think for themselves and come to the table with recommendations. That's a green belt. So as you get people to green belt, you are freeing yourself from the tyranny of being nickel and dime to death with time. What do I do? What do I do? No, instead, as people come to you like, hey, I think we should do this. And you could say yes, no, or you could say, how would you do that? And you're encouraging them to get to the blue belt. And they're going to come to you and say, I'm about to do this. In other words, they've seen something, they thought about it, they've recommended something, or in their head, they have a recommendation and they've assessed some possibilities. And they say, like, I think I'm going to do this, but I'm going to check with the boss. That's a blue belt. So they're coming to you with a solution now. And then purple is, I just did this. Now that is a radical change at this point, because they did something and they're coming to you and saying, I just did this. And when someone gets to this level and you have gotten the earlier things I talked about right, you've gotten the core values down so they know how they're supposed to be doing it. You've got the scorecard so they know how they're measured, and they're just doing things without your intervention. You are seriously freed, because at that point, the system is working. And then there's a black belt. Here's my update. I've been doing this. Right? This is a whole different level where you are able to think like a detached CEO in a good way, not detached as in checked out, in a good way. You're looking over the company and you're looking at it as a system where you can help guide the thing as a whole. And these players that are coming with you and these black belts, they are now looking to you to make that next big vision so that you can take the company in a new direction. So this is the individual contributor. Now managers, they manage individual contributors. So a manager also has a progression like this. So a white belt manager is, I'll tell you what to do. And this is very typical. And you might be seeing this in yourself, right? I was this for a while as a manager. I'll just tell you what to do, because as a manager, you don't have confidence that you're telling someone they can make decisions. So a white belt manager, it just dictates, I'll tell you what to do. A yellow belt manager is asks a question. Hey, what do you see? What are you noticing? They're coaching the individual contributor. Like, what are you actually seeing? And you notice that there's a correspondence here. Like the manager is asking the individual contributor, what do you see? What do you think? What would you recommend? What do you intend to do? What did you do? And what have you been doing? So likewise, managers are elevating based on the questions that they're asking their individual contributors. So this is a model for how you can talk with every person in your organization, and you're getting them to that A player status where it's freeing you and it's enabling them to get better at what they're doing, because you are coaching them to becoming the best version of a team member that they can. It's really rewarding when you take someone from a white belt and you see them go all the way to a green or a blue belt. Then even if they leave your company, you've really done something special, because at the company, their time there is so much more valuable to you because they didn't stay in the tell me what to do path. They've gone up to, blue belt. They're telling you, I'm about to do this. And you've been like, great, do that. Or have you thought about this? You're so freed up. The mental load on you and the emotional load on you is so much lower. So this gamifies the system so that when you're doing reviews, you're going to be able to actually elevate the team much quicker. So I'm a big fan of this. So if you want to download on this, all of the details and examples, as you can see in the last slide, that was just like a little summary of it. But if you want details, the downloadable template is below with all the details for all of the individual contributor and the manager levels. Download that below. Okay, we're in the home stretch here with a couple of things that might seem tactical, but have been huge benefits to how I've managed over the last 20, 30 years. The first is what we call the magic script. When employees underperform, somebody's not really working the way that you want them to, and you have to have the discussion. That's a really hard discussion. This whole thing is about management made easy. It's tough to have discussions, all right? And these performance discussions, particularly when someone's doing not so well, are hard because they're emotionally loaded. And when you're giving feedback that is negative, of course, you want a team with a thick skin who can take that kind of feedback, but you also want to couch it in a way that gets a result. So everyone gets a little defensive when you're telling, well, you could be doing better. But how do you do that in a way that is constructive and gets them on the right path? All right. So we know you already have a scorecard that's going to flag where they're falling behind. So you made that objective and you've made it easy on yourself. Now you have to deliver the message in a way that they understand it, they internalize it, and it changes their behavior, okay? So this can sometimes change B players into A players. I have used this to change B players into A players. I remember one circumstance where I had a sales rep and he was just like falling down on the job. I used this magic script with him, and just like that, there was a change that somehow that this phrasing and how it works changed how they view what they're doing, because it's non-threatening, but makes the problem front and center. This is not the complete script. The complete script is downloadable below, but I want to call out some of the phrasing in here, because it starts out with, I owe you an apology. So you, as the person in the position of authority, are apologizing to them. Now that disarms any other further conversation, because you're not coming at them straight on. You're like, well, you know what? I owe you an apology. We've discussed the scorecard for success in your role. I've done a poor job of communicating why it's done in a specific way and giving you the training to get it done. I've tolerated missing those expectations in the past without giving you coaching on how to do your job better. For that, I'm sorry. What we expect is, and then you go into, and this is cut off. The full thing is downloadable below, including some credits of where I found pieces of this to put this together. So I did not develop this entirely myself. It's an adaptation of other things. So this script disarmed someone and said, look, it's my fault. And it kind of is, because as a manager, the buck stops with you. So really, if you have someone who's underperforming, it means that either you haven't set expectations clearly at the beginning, or they're not living up to the expectations. But you don't want to start there and say, you didn't do this, or you are failing in this way. Instead, you're saying, look, I've made it clear. We've talked about the scorecard. So maybe I haven't given you the coaching, or maybe I haven't been clear. And when you do it that way, it disarms them, so it doesn't feel like a personal attack. It feels like, hey, maybe I didn't make a system for you to succeed. And then they will open up, and they will, honestly, every time I've done this, they will confess what's really going on. They will say, okay, well, I know, you've been clear, but like I've had a bad run, and I'm not going to give any personal examples here, but they'll open up and they'll say what's really happening, right? And maybe it's some undiscovered politicking at your company. Maybe it is a personal situation that they have. Maybe it is like, you know what, I've just not been feeling motivated. You don't know what it's going to be, but this opens them up. And every single time I've used this, I've gotten some truth. And that is really important, because you can understand, is this a fundamental issue? Are they bullshitting you? So using this script and disarming it and not making it adversarial, I found extremely valuable. So that's the magic script. Again, the full thing downloadable below. We're coming into the home stretch here. Next is the anti-fragility policy. So the anti-fragility policy is, to me, a pretty important thing in a company. Fragile people, to me, are completely exhausting. And as a leader, energy is make or break. Right? For you, for the organization, you having the energy and the excitement to move forward is a key part of success of the organization, of the team, and you being able to do your job. And employees who can't handle being asked to do hard things and are either complaining or are just like, well, I don't know, like, I don't want to do that, are not motivated, or they're easily triggered by something and they go into an emotional space really quickly, that is exhausting. And so I don't tolerate that. So what I do is I set the expectation that we're going to ask a lot of them. We're going to ask them to do things that may be hard. And I view that as incredibly important, because doing hard things is what's necessary for a championship team. And if they're not willing to push themselves and do hard things, well, they're probably not an A player. And long term, I don't really want them at the organization. So I set the expectation at the beginning that we're going to push you. And I do that with an anti-fragility policy. Again, downloadable template is below. And I'll just give you a couple of highlights on this at the beginning. When you work on our team, you're signing up to push your own boundaries. This is not a place where you'll be coddled. You will experience unexpected changes. You will be pushed. Much will be asked of you. In exchange, we will achieve great things together. Now, when you phrase things this way, it is going to repel people who are the negative people who are looking for an excuse not to work, and they're entitled to their job. They feel like, oh, well, I'm being paid. I'm just entitled to do this, instead of someone who really wants to create something, be a contributor to co-creating something great. So this policy that you can point to and you have them read it. Actually, this is posted online, so people can read this. If this is not you, don't join the company. I think it's an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. Bonus, here's another one that I love to use. It's mission versus activism. Now, in the last several years, we've had a lot of activism in companies where employees will push their political or whatever other kinds of agendas they have, which are not really relevant to the company. And I like to make clear that if you've got a flag to fly, you do you, but you don't do it at the company, because the championship team here is to win championships. That's what it's for, and it's not for anything else. So we also have a policy that discourages that and said it's not okay to create dissent because you might believe something different from other people. And work is not a place for that. If you have this burning need to be an activist, probably not the place for you. So this is our policy on that. Some companies engage in political and social activism unrelated to what the company does. Now, if you are actually a lobbying organization and you're doing that and that's part of the deal, great. But if it's unrelated, no. Many companies accept team members bringing their personal causes to work. Many companies accept team members taking on roles of policing ideas and language in the workplace. This is not us. And then it goes on to distinguish that we have a mission. We talked about core values at the beginning of this, right? Like 45 minutes ago, I talked about core values and how important the core values are. But the core values of the company and the mission of the company is not the mission of some random political cause. They are different. The mission of the company is to achieve something great in the scope of what the company is doing for its customers, and it can help the world in certain ways. But that is distinct from someone having a flag to fly about whatever their pet political project is. So at the bottom we say, we are here to make change. The change we're here to make is in our mission statement. And then it goes on to talk more about the distinction. So This to me is very important because people who are activists of one sort or another also tend to be dividers. We talked about that fit grader and how there's a divider. People who are too activist tend to be dividers because they're making people feel like they're walking on eggshells and they can't be themselves or they can't say certain things. And an open discussion at a company is necessary to achieving its goal. And when people take on this language police role, etc., you are not going to get where you want to go. So I encourage this. Take it or leave it. I know some people have strong reactions to this. It's too bad. This is what I do. There are two things that you can do to make progress on what we just went over today. The first is to download all of the things that I went over today. You can find all those downloads in a link below this video. The second is you can learn more about scientific entrepreneurship. That's the process that I use to test different management systems. And it's also useful for every area of your business to test what works, what doesn't work. If you want to learn more about scientific entrepreneurship, you can go to this video here. You can also get all the resources below this video.